Hello, this is a knife review video on this thing here, that is the Knv3, also known as the Knv3, and I hope I pronounced this correctly. And it's made by a Swedish company that is located in Kalmar, Sweden, and they contacted me if I wanted to make a knife review, and I decided that why not. After checking their website, this seems to be quite cool little knife. Now it comes in this highly designed cardboard box, and it has a kydex sheath, and this is the knife itself. I would say that this is a hunting knife or a utility knife all around. Now let's go into the details immediately. This is 202 millimeters long, so a little over 20 centimeters. The blade itself is 84 millimeters long, meaning something like 8.5 centimeters, and the width of the blade is 4.5 millimeters, so quite wide. The blade itself has, I would say, a flat grind. I would say there might be just a tiniest bit of convex, but I would say that it is a full flat grind. From out of the box it's quite sharp, and it has a really sharp point. The handle is made out of a material called TPE-O. It's thermoplastic, and it seems that the only color available is dark green or olive green, and well, it goes well with the black kydex sheath. The tang itself is a full tang, meaning that it goes all the way through to the pommel, and it's a little bit protruding here, so if you want to use this for hammering and other similar tasks, that's a good thing. There is a rivet for your lanyard, a lanyard hole, and there is a little bit of swell sideways here, and a little bit swell on the belly side of the knife. And on the surface we have this little scale pattern for extra friction. I would say that, at least in my hand, this fits quite well. There is a little bit guard here and a little bit of a pommel here, and it feels light and quite agile. That's because the balance point is somewhere here, so almost or a lot of the weight is actually in the handle, so that's why it feels so lively, I would say. The weight of the knife is 146 grams, and the sheath weighs 74 grams, so the total weight is 220 grams, and I measured this on my trusty kitchen scale. So the material of the blade is a steel called CrMoV 18 or GB9CR18 MOV, depending how you want to spell it. So I checked it from the internet. It's hard, tough, has quite good edge retention, and it's quite corrosive resistance, so all those attributes are good for a hunting knife or utility knife. And the hardness of the blade is 59 HRC, and the sheath is made out of kydex. Kydex is a material that is quite easy to work with, and you get very good fit. So as a hunting knife, it's important that it doesn't rattle. So once it's secured tightly, it's basically silent. And there are these rivets here that you can use to attach this to your gear, but you also have these slots. So if you want to use mole or other straps, let's say to attach this to your backpack, no problems. And of course you have a belt strap with Velcro, and of course we have this attachment here. Now this sheath is symmetrical, meaning that it's identical on the both sides. Now this is configured for right hand use, but let's say if you would be a left-hander, you can switch this around. We have these screws here and these things here, I would say that these are lugs. So you just unscrew these, flip the whole sheath around, and then just screw these lugs back on, and tada! You have a knife for a left-hander. It takes a little bit of force to get it out of the sheath, but you can do it basically with your thumb, and of course it takes a little bit of force to get it back in, but that is to be expected from a kydex sheath, and it locks it quite securely so it doesn't accidentally drop. So quite good design. This thing has a 10-year guarantee, which is quite a lot, and the price is 700 Swedish crowns, meaning something like 75 euros. So how do I like my Knv3 knife? It is a good knife and I like it. It's quite small and it's quite light and it's quite agile and it's really sharp and it has a really good kydex sheath. I cannot really complain anything about the kydex sheath, but there is a couple of issues that I have with this. One of them is a design aspect, meaning that the spine is quite wide and it has a really sharp corner. So basically if you are doing carving so that you are assisting either with your left or right thumb, after a while these sharp corners start irritating your skin, and I would prefer that there would be a little bit rounded edges around spine. Not big deal if you are wearing gloves, it is a non-issue. This seems to be quite a good all-around knife. Let's say if you would be a hunter, this would be ideal, and for a fisherman, of course, if you are in the general outdoors and sometimes you have to cut something, this would be a really good option. What comes to the bushcrafting, if you are into small tinkering, you will like to make spoons and all kinds of little things, this is quite good. It carves, I would say, quite well, and for whittling and all kinds of little business, it leaves a quite good finish, I would say, and it cuts quite well, and especially if you are assisting with your left thumb, you would get quite precision cuts, or at least I could make them, even though I'm not really a master bushcrafter. I'm more than a beginner, but it would be a good knife for that. Now let's say if you would want to have only one knife for bushcrafting and survival, this probably would not be best choice for that. For if you just wanted to have one knife, I would say that this would be a really good utility knife, but for, let's say, cutting larger trees and making firewood, this probably would not be enough, because and for that reason you probably would like to have let's say an axe or a small hatchet with you. Now the reason for that is that the point of balance is basically quite back, so basically it doesn't chop that well. Also it's a light knife, so it doesn't really have any kind of chopping power, even if you would hold it like this, and in that way you would have a really flimsy grip, so it wouldn't chop. And also if you would use this for let's say for battoning, the short blade length would be quite limiting what you can baton. So making firewood and shelters with just this would be possible, but it would be time consuming and quite well restraining and would take quite a lot of effort. But I don't believe that anyone would get this kind of knife for that kind of business. So like I said, it would be a good overall knife or general knife in the camp life, and of course for hunters and fishermen and that kind of people. It cuts well, and it also gives quite good spark if you are using fire steel, so that's always a plus. You don't have to carry matches and lighters with you if you have a fire steel, so you don't have to worry that there isn't a possibility to make fire if you get your stuff all soaking wet. So I would say that this is a really good knife, and you should definitely check out the Vikt website. So that's about it, I guess.